The Trump administration has frozen nearly all foreign funding as it seeks to drastically reduce federal spending. How has this move impacted NGOs doing work in China?
There are many programs and organizations that have received grants from the State Department for all different kinds of work. And I would call it an entire ecosystem of nonprofits that work on China from outside of China that are quite dependent on those grants from the State Department. And since those have been frozen, dozens of organizations are in crisis. They're having to lay off staff. They're facing imminent closure, and their work, even if they aren't at this time facing imminent closure, is already being damaged, and in some cases irreparably. These kinds of organizations play a crucial role in our information space about what we know about China. They tally local protests in China. They document human rights abuses. They document the Uyghur genocide. They track Chinese media censorship. And they do things on a really granular level that really no one else does.
How is it that these groups have become so reliant on funding from the US?
There's a number of reasons that we've gotten to this place. One of them is that foreign NGOs used to be able to operate in China, but the 2017 foreign NGO law in China essentially made their work illegal, and they had to leave China. A second reason is that they are quite dependent on government funding because the Chinese government, as we all know, uses the power of access to its economy to control what businesses do and say, and what rich people do and say. So why aren't other democratic governments more involved? And that's a complicated answer. Other democratic governments, for example, in the European Union, have scaled back their own funding for pro-democracy work over the past 10 years as well. I think there was a sense that the US was very reliable and would continue to fund this, and so it didn't really matter. But what we've seen is that in one fell swoop, because of one government's actions, this entire system of vital work is really in danger of dying, and there will be nothing left in its place.
What is the impact to the US and other Western countries of losing the visibility into China that these organizations provide?
So the reason that this information is so valuable, and certainly it's valuable on its own merits, it's incredibly important to understand what's happening in China, how people are suffering, what the government there is actually doing, because of course the Chinese government maintains one of the world's most sophisticated censorship regimes to prevent information from leaving China or from being collected in the first place. But why does that matter for us, for people who don't inherently care about China? And it matters because the point of China's censorship regime, the point of it trying to prevent negative information about China from leaving China, is because it wants to present its system as the best system in the world. It's a one-party authoritarian state. And Beijing's big pitch to the world is that this system is at least an equal alternative to democracies and is probably superior. And it's really hard to prove that that is false, that Beijing is lying and using deception to make its case, if we don't have access to facts. And if we can't prove that Beijing is wrong, if we can't prove that its system actually is deeply flawed, then what is the whole point of fighting for democracies or even having democracies ourselves?